Imagine a nation not attacked from the outside, but betrayed from within. The US only gave a signal, and China's own capitalists stabbed it in the back. One move by the dollar, and the yuan's value crashed. China didn't just respond. It struck back with brilliance. Financial beasts like George Soros bring nations to their knees. This time they backed off, and history took a sharp turn. This is the story of a war not fought with weapons, but with currency and conspiracies. Watch till the end, because what comes next, you've never heard before.
As the old saying goes, capitalists have no homeland.
They'll side with whoever helps them make the most money, even if that means betraying their own country. This played out in 2015, when the United States launched a financial attack on China, hoping to use economic tools to trigger a crisis that would wipe out decades of China's growth. The goal was to push Chinese society back to the days of poverty and hunger. Incredibly, many Chinese-born capitalists chose to stab their own country in the back during this critical moment. So, with the US launching a financial war from the outside and our own capitalists betraying us from within, how did we fight back? And how did we end up breaking the legs of those who came to laugh at China? We weren't the only target. The whole world was affected by America's move, but most countries didn't even have time to react before being crushed. Argentina, for example. On the same day the US announced interest rate hikes, Argentina's peso dropped 41% and its economy collapsed instantly. China, however, had been preparing. Still, the situation wasn't optimistic. In December 2015, the moment the US announced rate hikes, $10 billion in foreign exchange fled China. This caused panic. Wealthy individuals and businesses began transferring assets overseas. Many major domestic capitalists, names you can find if you look, started bad-mouthing China and selling off assets. Some even borrowed massive loans from Chinese banks to buy foreign companies, shifting their wealth abroad while passing the financial risk to Chinese banks. These mass exits accelerated the capital flight. With big capital fleeing, panic gripped the market. People started dumping the yuan for the US dollar. The yuan, no longer pegged to the dollar, began depreciating sharply. Despite our $3 trillion in foreign reserves, our vast population and the cascading fear made even the middle class rush to sell yuan and hoard dollars, creating severe pressure. We hadn't even started fighting the US before getting stabbed in the back by our own people. This proves that capital always follows profit. The continued depreciation of the yuan caught the attention of global speculative capital, who saw a golden opportunity to short China. Leading the charge were Kyle Bass and George Soros, who decided to become the USS Vanguard. Their plan: short the yuan, crash China's economy, and ensure we'd never again pose a challenge to America. A brief intro. George Soros, often called a financial terrorist, is infamous for toppling economies. In 1992, he shorted the British pound, forcing the Bank of England to collapse. He made $1 billion in a single day and pushed Britain out of the European exchange rate mechanism. In 1994, he targeted Mexico, causing the peso to plummet and Mexico's reserves to vanish. When these two targeted China, they went after the offshore yuan market quietly. Bass raised $25 billion from his connections. Soros committed all his funds via the Quantum Fund. But China was ready. In October 2015, we imposed window guidance to limit the free lending of RMB abroad. Since these investors needed to borrow RMB to short it, but couldn't ask China directly, that would be like borrowing a knife to stab us. They went through banks in Hong Kong and individual lenders. To block them, China restricted individuals from lending renminbi to such capital, essentially cutting off their ammunition. Then, on January 4th, 2016, the real battle began. The capitalists used their USD to collateralize and borrow RMB, then dumped the RMB, further lowering its value. For example, if $1 equals 10 RMB, they'd borrow 10 RMB, crash the exchange rate to $1 equals 11 RMB, then repay only 10 RMB, pocketing the difference. That very day, the yuan dropped 602 basis points, then another 1,303 basis points within 3 days. Capital continued to flow into the US. It looked like China was doomed. But we made several key moves. Hong Kong banks were ordered to stop lending RMB. Individuals were barred from transferring RMB overseas. This dried up the RMB supply in the global market. Then the Chinese government massively sold dollars to buy back RMB. As everyone rushed to swap yuan for dollars, we went the other way, absorbing all offshore RMB, which drove the yuan's value back up. Then, in 1997, Soros went after Thailand and Southeast Asia, triggering the Asian financial crisis. Any country he targeted faced destruction. But Soros wasn't always victorious. In 1998, he targeted Hong Kong, boasting it was his ATM, but he lost badly. Thanks to China's strong defense, he lost $700 to $800 million and had to flee, fuming that it wasn't a free market. Now the speculators were in a bind. They couldn't find renminbi in the market. Their core funds couldn't be touched, and their ammunition funds were exhausted. The only RMB holders left were other international capitalists. Suddenly,
they began attacking each other. Big funds devoured small ones to survive. Desperation drove them to borrow money at crazy rates. RMB interest spiked from 41% to 64%, higher than loan shark rates. Ironically, this chaotic demand pushed the yuan even higher. On January 12th to 13th, 2016, the RMB surged 366 basis points in 2 days, further hurting the speculators. They were bleeding out, and China seized the moment. In February 2016, the RMB was pushed up over 1,000 basis points in a single month. The international capitalists had no fight left. Soros, for instance, lost nearly half his fortune during this attack on China. They came in confidently and fled in disgrace. We won the battle to defend the RMB, but the problem of capital outflow remained. To fix this once and for all, we had to cut off our own arm to save the body. What did China do next? That's the topic of the next episode. I'm Dua Meng, and this is my official Douyin account. If you like this video, please follow me so you won't miss the next update. That's all for now. See you next time.